hard, party young. What's happening, Robot Wars and BattleBots fans? Hardcore Kid here with another episode of the Hardcore Podcast. To my left of me is the always bearable Otaku Nate.
There's no bears out there, are there?
Yes, there's plenty of bears out there. It's bear season.
Oh, man, oh.
Don't worry. We'll get that bear.
Yeah.
When I did wrestling in high school, I had to wrestle guys as big as bears. So
you had to wrestle several teams with the name of the bears. I don't believe.
Yeah, the Hawthorne Bears. But that's beside the point. We have a guest reviewer with us tonight. He is one of my good friends in the Northeast Robotics Club. He's built some terrifying bots like Silent Spring and DDT. But his most terrifying of all is his heavyweight robot, SawBlaze. It is Jamison Go. How's it going, JMO?
Hey, pretty good. Say, have you wrestled dragons before?
I believe I have wrestled a dragon.
Super Dragon! Super Dragon!
We just wanted to get as many guests as possible on the show, and tonight had SawBlaze in the first match, so we decided, hey, let's get JMO on the podcast.
Before we begin, can I at least tell my story? Because, oh boy, I had quite the story, the encounter last night.
Alright, what happened?
So, after we'd finished watching BattleBots, we got done a little late, because, I took a nap at 5 o'clock thinking that I would just be up in like an hour. It was 8 p.m. when I woke up. Thank God for DVR, but we watched the thing, and by the end, we had to let my dog Lulu out to, do her business. And all of a sudden, she darts across the driveway, because we have a long driveway. And she goes the distance, and I see a figure in the distance moving, and I'm like, Mom, it's a bear cub. And it goes right after my dog. Lulu tries running away, it tackles her.
Ugh.
We run in the house screaming, locking the door. And we just wait for the bears to go away. We're searching for Lulu. We don't know where she is. We don't know if she's alive or dead or what have you. Several minutes later, as if by the grace of God, we found her hiding in the backyard with simply a scratch on her body.
Wow.
No major damage, nothing. She was okay, and I gave her the biggest hug imaginable.
I can imagine that. It's bear season's really been taken off lately. We've had bears getting into the garbage. We actually have a bear can, but they figured out if you roll it on the ground enough, it actually loosens the lid so that they can just get right in.
Yeah, Brandon and I, we live in rural parts of New Jersey, so
yeah, the good part of New Jersey.
Yeah, the bears they cause quite a ruckus.
Yeah, well. You should have asked JMO to send SawBlaze down and have it scare the bear away.
I think I can scare it away by using the alarm on my car.
There you go. So yeah, so getting back to BattleBots, this is episode 6, I believe. So we're about a quarter of the way, more than a quarter of the way into the season, and again, this was a very this episode had some good matches and some matches that were kind of frustrating to watch, honestly, in more ways than one. But tonight's main event was the debut this season of Bronco against last year's runner-up Bombshell. And I will say, I thought it was better than some of the main event matches we've
this one was kind
lately.
of a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, well, it really could have gone either way, because Bombshell started off good, but then Bronco just came in and exploited Bombshell's weakness, which is it can't run well inverted. But we'll get to that when we get around to it. But first, we must talk about the first match. It is JMO's very own SawBlaze versus Reality.
And as usual, we will give you the floor on this one, JMO. So tell us about your strategy going in and how you felt during the fight.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, fighting Reality. I mean, Reality, those guys actually a team of 4 different teams, kind of similar to the Team Jacked of, 2015, but this time from the Netherlands. These guys have quite a reputation internationally for bringing a lot of, pretty deadly machines. and we're already familiar with their 30-pounder Equinox, who's been just tearing it up all over Europe. So seeing Reality, we had the same expectation, and really it's a scale-up version. So the motor placement, the battery placement, the drive motors, I mean, and then of course, the first robot to build the motor directly into the drum for the heavyweight scale. I think a lot of the builders, when I speak for them, we say this thing looked great, and we were afraid of it. Everyone kind of shared that sentiment, They shared that opinion. So being matched up against them, another opening fight. We liked opening fights because the crowd is at max energy, so you can maximize the hype. But we were expecting that weapon to definitely dish out some pain, and seeing them in the test box doing their safety checks, we know if we let that thing get up to speed, it could be quite deadly, but it does take a while to get up there. So our typical strategy of get in there real fast, run them real hard, rim the walls, is compatible with how we usually operate, so we just wanted to do that. The only change that we need to really make is to, instead of being super aggressive like we did against Charles and Overhaul, is to be methodical about the use of the prongs on the drum. A lot of teams this season are implementing a drum with like the two double discs on the ends. And while you can definitely go around the sides and everything, it's probably the easiest to try and use that middle section that doesn't have any teeth and see if you can get under them that way. Simple physics would just tell you that if you get in there deep enough, that even if they do hit like any of our prongs, it won't actually kick us back or throw us in the air. So very similar to a lot of builders who have D2 kits, Wolverine claws, the similar concept. So if we're able to get into that middle section between the teeth, we'll be able to get under them pretty easily and then take them to the wall.
And it worked for the most part. Got a lot of slice marks in. I like the part where he actually sliced right into the drum. It almost looked like it was about to slice it right in half. I thought that was a really cool visual.
If you want to be technical, though, it's what's called a drisk, because it has this. I'm looking at a picture right now. The drum is similar to that of Magnetar from.
Yeah, it's got two. It's basically like it's two spinning discs on either side, and there's a little drum section in the middle. Hence called Drisk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learn something new every day. I mean,
exactly.
With regards to those specific cuts, I mean, I did tell them in that the pre-fight interview I wanted to try and cut that drum, and I mean, we're having fun in these pre-fight interviews. At that time I wasn't actually expecting to do that because of 2016, I'd be like, yo, that's crazy. I'm not ever going to try and cut their weapon. But the opportunity presented itself, and we joked around with them too, kind of scare them a little bit. We asked some questions like, tell me, how thick is your drum wall in the middle section there? I mean, that's still 30 millimeters worth of material. It's actually quite a bit. And aluminum, SawBlaze doesn't like aluminum that much. The harder the better, to be honest. The whole machine of Reality is made from at least 450, Hardox 450. The teeth, I think, are 550 Hardox. It's actually pretty tough stuff. So the exact same material as Overhaul's head, which, as we found out last time, SawBlaze seems like a lot.
It's kind of surprising that SawBlaze wouldn't like aluminum, considering that aluminum is a pretty thin stuff.
Yeah, but it's a gummy material. So the thing about these diamond abrasives is like think of it like a giant abrasive wheel, and you've got angle grinders and little Dremel tools, and they operate by the same concept. If the diamond abrasive kind of gets filled with material, then the effective cutting rate kind of decreases. So if you hit something with aluminum, you have to dress the blade later, like getting the aluminum chunks off, or like hitting steel again, just to like get all the pieces out of the diamond abrasive, the gaps. So aluminum doesn't like aluminum as much. It'll do it. I just have to make sure I don't feed it too hard, or it'll stall it out, which is done a few times throughout that batch.
Yeah, because when it comes to these SawBots, people always think, oh, you can just put it on a giant arm and just flail it around like an axe. No, you have to really make the saw go slowly so that you have a much cleaner cut. It's like, if you've ever seen Dead Metal on Robot Wars, you can see the saw goes very slowly, and that way it can just go right into the bot and just get a nice clean slice. And I am really happy that SawBots like SawBlaze and Scorpios are making a name for themselves again, because I remember in the old days, like, some people would look at SawBots and say, you know, they look cool, but they don't do a whole lot of damage. But I don't know, because they can be really good. I mean, we all remember when Gloomy put its saw into Hyperactive's battery. Whoosh! Whoosh!
Ooh, yeah. Jason really set the bar for that one, because I've been kind of messing around with SawBots for a while, but I've never gotten a result as good as his. And once he pulled that off, everyone was absolutely astounded. Suddenly, my goodness, SawBots, they're real.
Hey, they're at least effective on like the lower scales, like the ants and beetles.
They can be good. JMO, I believe, had a beetle weight called Ron many years ago.
That's true. And actually, SawBlaze is an upscale of that. Ron was actually my very first robot that I built when I was a wee little kid. And then, so it has special significance to me, this design. And you look at the current landscape of robots, and yeah, maybe it's a little bit obsolete. It has its advantages and disadvantages. Most of them are disadvantages. But the thing that really wins at the fights is the geometry of the front and the drivetrain.
Yeah.
And I think I'd say this was the best match of the show.
Easily.
Yes.
Thanks.
What I find most entertaining about the fight is that I think like one of my favorite moments was that it was very back and forth. It was very back and forth. Like, you know, JMO obviously won it by unanimous decision, but Reality put up a good fight. He bent your center forks, and I'm like, oh god, I hope he makes it.
Yeah, they you know, we made a few mistakes, and they were able to capitalize on it. I mean, that drum spinning upwards, even if it's not spinning fast, kind of acts as a wheel. So they'll pick up a little bit of a robot. I mean, that's how vertical spinners will throw you in the air. They get us a little bit to be able to get underneath us and pick us up and cause a little bit of damage. And at that length, those forks are pretty long. So the moment that they exert on by hitting the tip really affects the backplane of the dustpan. So that impact, it wasn't a huge impact. They were probably like 30% power. Imagine that. If they got to full speed, who knows what that thing would actually look like. But it bent it all the way back at the backplane of the dustpan. And so we have spares, luckily. But that particular one, we had to do a lot to repair it, and we saved it for kind of our sacrificial one against other opponents later in the fight cards.
Well, but SawBlaze still ended up getting the judge's decision at the end. It was a really good match. Reality managed to get some nicks in, but SawBlaze managed to come out on top. So 2-0, baby.
It's the perfect shape. It was the perfect shape for SawBlaze, to be frank.
Nice flat top.
One thing I want to ask you, JMO, about your robot. What chemicals are you burning to get that green flame on a SawBlaze?
Yeah, so our flamethrower, as you noted, burns green, and it's kind of like your middle school chemistry sort of thing. So you know that burning different salts inside the flame will actually color the flame. Like strontium is a really strong red, and there's some other ones I forgot. But one thing we remembered in particular is that copper burns green. So we looked for different chemicals in a salt form or like a dissolvable in liquid, and that have copper in it. And copper sulfate just happens to be one of those chemicals. It's water soluble, which means it dissolves in water, and you can buy it pretty cheap. It's maybe $1 a pound or something like that. We have way too much of it. It's used for agricultural purposes, so It's very easy to obtain. It's not dangerous at all, but it is somewhat corrosive. So you might imagine things you don't want to do steel robots, salt, corrosive salts dissolved into water, now turned into a spray that you shoot into basically a fire.
This has been another episode of Behind the Magic with Jamison Go.
Some other things that they did. I mean, you saw the end of the match when they're doing the judges' decisions. I mean, we felt like it was a pretty dominating match, but it's actually pretty nervous. Things they didn't show. They actually did a, judges. The judges decided to inspect the robots. Very similar. They did that to scare me. I'm just kidding. They did that to see the damage that both robots had caused, and this is it reminded me of the Razorback match in 2016. I was having flashbacks. It's like, oh no, not this again.
I noticed that at one point it almost looked like the saw wasn't working, and I'm like, oh no. But I think were you just holding back at that point and just waiting for a good hit?
You always have to wait for a good hit. A wise man once said. We got it jammed in the top at one point in time. Reality put on some extra armor. They actually swapped out a few components to try and get some extra armor. Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly what they swapped out. I think it might have been some of the side guards or the top plates. The sides are, of course, Hardox 450. You can look at their excellent build report on their team page. They have it well documented. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool to just see how they built it. The top plates are actually titanium. And on top of that, they added a thick UHMW plate, and I think they told me that they added some roofing tar or shingles underneath that to try and slow it down. Luckily for us, this is in fact a fireman's rescue saw made by Cutter's Edge, and firemen typically have to go through burning buildings and roofs, shingles, etc. So we're like, oh, okay. We do have pictures that we're going to put up later on our page about some of the damage that we were able to deliver on Reality. Do it a few days so everyone has a chance to watch. There are some deep cuts. We're always very close to damaging something critical. We're probably a few millimeters away from their drive chain on one side for one of the rear wheels. The cut that was directly over the center of the machine went through the plastic that they added to try to mitigate our attack. And titanium also, I mean, on that flat surface is actually kind of hard to cut, but it actually heated the titanium. It melted it, deformed it, so you can actually see this saw blade indentation on the opposite side of the plate.
Wow.
And we burned their battery. They used lipo sacks actually to contain their batteries in case they catch fire. We put a burn mark through both layers, through the entire lipo sack.
Nice.
And so we were millimeters away from starting a battery fire.
Oh,
almost right through the good stuff.
Well, yeah, it was still fun to watch. It's always great seeing SawBlaze just putting on a good show, and somebody just Facebook messaged Nate, "Get out of here." And that pretty much covers this match. But we still have a few more matches to go to talk about. So if you want to stay with us, JMO, the next match is another Dutch machine, Petunia, taking on Monsoon. But before the match even started, we already got some great Tim moments. First off, you see Tim dancing, and you can clearly see the Robot Wars logo tattoo on his leg. Yeah. Hello, copyright. And then at some point, you can hear the Dutch guys. What I think they yell. What did they yell in Dutch again?
Pinch him.
And then Tim yelled something in Tim Recklyism. # question exclamation.
You know, you should turn that into a real hashtag. Make it a real thing. Let's make it a real thing.
Oh, man.
It's very hard to translate the language of the Reckly.
One nice little touch I also love that Monsoon did was they had the vase of petunias on the robot with the note of "Oh no, not again." What does that even mean? It's a reference to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I forget the name of the character, but it's one who's always getting reincarnated and is always being killed.
So he's Little Nicky?
Kind of, only he's actually funny.
I liked Little Nicky. I'm one of the very few who did. So this match, it was another tense one, and Monsoon was actually getting some really big hits on Petunia.
Monsoon, man, they've really been making a name for themselves this season. I don't mean like, oh, it's Tim and Tom being Tim and Tom. I mean, this thing is really deadly.
Yeah. The only problem I have with it is sometimes the reliability catches up with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, the weapon stopped and then it lost drive, and I'm thinking, oh no.
Oh no.
And but they did some major damage on Petunia. They basically pulled a Nuts 2 on Androne 4000. They just smacked into their hydraulic tank, and then Petunia just went up. It was insane.
I always love it when robots catch fire like that.
Yeah, this was basically Gloomy versus Hyperactive, just going up in flames.
Or Rapid versus Carbide.
Yeah, sure. Oh, and but right at the end, Monsoon, it looked like it lost drive or it got stuck on the wall, and it's sitting there dead. And then you see Petunia, who's kind of still moving, but it's just melting. It's just a big melting flower. And then all of a sudden, Monsoon starts moving again, and Monsoon gets the victory.
Ah, what a world! What a world!
Yeah, Monsoon. At least what Tom reports is that the hydraulic fluid that Petunia is actually putting all over the floor, hydraulic fluid it's oil. It's actually really slippery and very flammable, as it so turns out. But you see those like classic super secret agents movies where they put the oil slick everywhere. It's kind of like what Petunia was doing by running around. The whole arena was covered in hydraulic fluid.
Oh boy,
and,
that must have taken a long time to clean up.
The BattleBots actually put a picture up on their Instagram. They're using some sort of cleaning powder to actually soak up and clean up all the oil after that match. But Monsoon was actually they lost traction. They were slipping on this oil slick that Petunia put down, and I think that Petunia was also suffering from the same thing. So that's what happened with them. They're able to get enough traction to prevent themselves from being robot warsed out from immobility. Was anyone else thinking about that? I can't be the only one.
Because it looked like it was going to happen again when you see Monsoon was not moving,
Well, Tommy hasn't had the best of luck with judges' decisions. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, he managed to squeak it out here, and it was well deserved. He was definitely the better robot. I don't think Petunia was able to do anything to Monsoon in this match.
It's also due to the fact that Monsoon's body can articulate. Remember what Tommy told us?
Yeah.
Monsoon's body, the way it tilts up and down like that, is so that if it gets wedged onto something, it can just drive off.
And this was a very tense match because you didn't think. It looked like Petunia might get the comeback victory, but Monsoon was able to go. So it was fun, and I enjoyed this match.
As did I.
The next match is a different story.
Well, J-Mo, can we give it... Well, before we move on, J-Mo, your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I mean, we love Monsoon a lot. It's so much fun to say their name, and the guys are just a lot of fun. Shedding a little bit of light on Monsoon, that thing's got a lot of power. It may not quite seem it, and maybe the machine, as you noted previously, that it has some reliability issues right now. It's almost too powerful for its own good. I mean, I think it has an E-Tech R inside there. That's like the same motor that Tombstone uses to spin his blade, but their blade is lighter. It's only 18 kilograms, which is about 36 pounds, 2.2 pounds per kilogram. So it's a much lighter blade, so they're running it probably on the higher torque end of it instead of spinning that large mass. It's got a lot of power. So robots, don't underestimate it, definitely. And they're definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, ours too.
Ours too.
So Monsoon gets the victory and goes up to 2-0. And now we must move on to Sub-Zero versus Captain Shredder Revolutionist.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
It looked as if Captain Shredderator had this one won, and then all of a sudden, just one big hit went right into the wall, and then it died. Can you shed some light, JMO?
Yeah, Nicholas Neve is currently, driving the robot, and since Brian was off in China at that time, and they're really dealing with some sort of antiquated technology inside the machine. It uses an older radio, as you've seen the antenna a few times. They did try some new radio systems because they're actually having issues with the receiver. I think the antenna at one point had broken off, and that might have been after this match. They're trying to fix that. But really silly things happening on the inside with Captain Shredrator, because that machine definitely has the capability to deliver some nice hits. It was a really disappointing match to see. Nick and I are good friends, so I was cheering for him. Sorry, Jerry, but it's really sad to see a robot performing so well just for any silly reason to go out like that.
It's like the most frustrating way to lose a match is when you're just dominating and everything's going good, and then all of a sudden your robot just stops.
See Dominator 2 versus Spikosaurus.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a shame because the Revolutionist was like one of my favorite robots when I was a kid.
Mine too.
And something would always go wrong with it. Either there was the ropes which ripped out his power link. There was when Propeller Head pushed him into the pit. There was the Chomp match.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's rough, and I like Brian, I like Nick, and I really enjoy their robots.
We're hoping to have Nick on this show.
Yes,
he's away unfortunately, but I did
he's
get
in China
touch with him.
too, I believe.
Yes.
So
He may have moved there permanently. So.
Oh no.
Oh,
I mean, you can still get a hold of him. He's on social media, but
I got a hold of him thanks to their team page.
There you go. Yeah, but this was basically just Captain Shredder just beating the heck out of Sub-Zero, just getting hits on it, ripping up the back end. There were even times where Cap was hitting Sub-Zero so hard it was flipping it onto its side, but thankfully Sub-Zero was able to self-right, and I'm glad it does, because I've seen this thing up close, and I really love how it looks, and I like the little Shremek arms it's got on the sides.
That flipper is surprisingly powerful, even though it's never really flipped anything.
Yeah, because when I was going into this match, another thing about Brian and his bots, he still won't put a self-righting thing on top, like what Trigo has.
Or make them invertible a la Gyrobot.
Yeah, it's like... He believes that, or he says that when it's up to full speed, it's unflippable. But
right.
But what if it stops working? What if it stops and then it gives the other robot a chance to just flip it over?
Found that out the hard way against Endgame.
Yeah. This was frustrating because up until that last part, this was fun to watch. There was sparks everywhere. Mm-hmm. Just all kinds of damage being caused. I like the little drone that Sub-Zero has. It looks like Draven from Series 8 and 9 of Robot Wars. It's got a little flamethrower and a little jaw on the front.
Only it's a lot more practically built than Draven. And here come the comments from the guy who built Draven saying how we're stupid.
Well, we are stupid.
Yeah, but I'm the smart one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Get out. You're fired. JMO's my new host now. He's better than you.
Oh, man. No, I can't. No. I can't do that.
Yeah, I thought it would have been really funny if the drone actually landed on top of Captain Shredderator like a helipad.
And just burnt it up. That would have been hysterical.
Man. Yeah.
All the builders in the builders lounge, we were chanting for that. Land on it. I mean, he was still spinning right. I mean, Spitfire, the drone, was actually trying to torch him, but Captain Shredder was throwing so much air. He was actually putting out the flame every time they tried to ignite it. It's crazy. It's crazy in that box.
Physics.
Yeah, it was a shame, but the good news is Captain Shredder still has 2 more matches. Sub-Zero is they're 1-1 right now.
Yeah,
so.
1-1 against the worst opponent they could have fought with Huge.
Yeah, but there is still a chance. I think it all depends on how the records go. But yeah, that covers that match. So don't worry, because things get better. Because we get a Chomp match next. I want to say something about Chomp.
Can I rant, please?
Go ahead.
Okay. One of the things, the most important thing you can take away in Robot Combat is that if you lose or if you don't do well, you can come back and improve or learn your lesson as to what went wrong and go back to the drawing board. And I bear no ill will towards Zoe Stevenson. I'm pretty sure that she's a great person, and that I like the fact that for once we have a female engineer repping us Roboteers, because we need more of them. The problem I have with Chomp, as evidence this time around, Zoe Stevenson has not learned her lesson as to why Chomp fell last time, or why it's gotten such a negative reputation, because
it's too tall.
It's not just too tall, it's over-engineered as all hell.
Yeah,
I mean, there's Mortis levels of over-engineering, and then there's this.
Well, I will say, I mean, from a technical standpoint, this thing's a monster. I mean,
it is.
You've got an axe that spins 360 degrees. You've got all this crazy autonomous work going on to it. It's got a flamethrower. It actually has new Shremek, like pneumatic spikes coming out the side to get it back over.
I'm not a fan of those, because
they seem slow.
You see how long it took for her to self-right.
Yeah, like, I think, if I was building Chomp, I would try and, maybe use the side spikes to, like, balance it out, so that when it fires the axe, it doesn't go flopping right onto its side right away.
If they were to make a Hexbug toy of Chomp, the Hexbug toy would be more stable than Chomp. Let's put it that way.
It's always frustrating to watch Chomp's matches, because a lot of it is just it flopping onto its side, and then either it wins via its opponent just derping, or they manage to get some good hits in. And I will say this, that I think their victory over Bite Force was well deserved. They took out the weapon and got some hits.
Yeah, looking back on it, it was a well-earned victory, no matter how controversial it was. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of Chomp.
I just think they just need to make it wider,
or at the very least, like, downsize the robot. It's the old KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. But JMO, your thoughts on Chomp?
Chomp's an absolutely beautiful robot. If you look at what it's got underneath the hood,
yeah.
You could spend a long time just looking at all the different mechanisms inside. Chomp, we're definitely thankful for Zoe and Yasha. Some of our team members that are currently in the Los Angeles area, actually, we're good friends with them, and they hang out quite often. They helped us with getting our flamethrower improved for this season. So the system that Chomp uses for their flames, it's pretty reliable. We have our variant of it on SawBlaze as well. So we're definitely thankful for Zoe's openness to share information, and really the amount of R&D that they put into their machine, their willingness to share it with the rest of the robot fighting world. I definitely agree with some of the comments that you guys made about how to kind of improve Chomp. It's a very powerful hammer, almost too powerful for its current design. Mm-hmm. If it maybe went at half power, like, you can improve the power of the swing all you want. If you're unstable, you can't deliver those hits. So it may be an okay trade-off to have faster, maybe less powerful swings in order to get more hits in, versus singular big blows. The whole machine buckles when it fires.
Yeah.
You're losing a lot of energy from the machine just simply lifting off. So finding that balance is going to take some tuning. You might have to make some sacrifices, and practicing with a machine like that, it's actually pretty hard. Where are you going to run that thing?
As far as Warrior Dragon goes, it's pretty much Warrior from last year. It's still got the mini bot. It's got a brand new drone, I believe, because Hypershock destroyed the last one.
I didn't see the drone, but I did see the little cheese wedge it had.
Yeah. And the match, it's a Chomp match.
It was a squash. Let's be real. It was a squash that ended in a judge's decision.
I was a bit worried towards the end there, because Warrior's weapon stopped working, and I thought, oh no, this is going to be another Disco Inferno thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. They're going to give Chomp the win because its weapon is working and Warrior's isn't. But No, they gave the decision to Warrior Dragon, and it's I think it's the right decision because that they were able to use the weapon. I think Chomp only was able to use the axe once on Warrior Dragon.
Yeah, I saw
didn't
it
really
fire it
do
a
anything
few times.
Yeah.
Warrior actually used its flipper to good effect.
Yeah, it's a really cool design. It's been around for a long time. I remember seeing videos of it competing in 2006, somewhere back then. It's an old machine, but I think it's ingeniously designed, and I like it. It's got the flipper. The disc actually powers the flipper.
It's a kinetic flipper.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the match, it was kind of sloppy, but I think Warrior got this decision in the end. And really funny thing, I think at one point Chomp actually got stuck on the mini-bot.
I think it did. I don't know.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, that's all I can say. It wasn't a good match. But Warrior got the decision. Who wants to talk about the bonus match we got in this?
You can do... You and JMO got this one.
What the hell was this?
That was amazing.
We were just as surprised to see that as well, because, we're running the Mass Destruction viewing party with, Fred, Leanne, Ben from Brutus. We were running that, and there's usually a person sitting by the PC to control the volume. We turn the volume down at commercial breaks, so do Q&A. And suddenly we see this, everyone's screaming like, oh my goodness, wait, there's another match. And we turn it up, turn the volume up, and no one was expecting that. We get emails from Greg talking about the schedule, about when things are going to go on, and this was not on the schedule at all. So we were all incredibly surprised. Our eyes are glued to the TV. We're like, oh my goodness, we're going to get to see this. And then I'll leave it to you to talk about exactly what happened.
So basically, the show. I'm looking at the Facebook feed, and then I look back at the TV, and all of a sudden there's a match going on, like a three-way going on between Bale Spear, Basilisk, and
Bale Spear, Basilisk, Double Dutch, and I think there was a fourth one, but I don't know.
I think it might have been a mini bot. I don't know, but
it was supposed to be 4 robots. This was a experimental concept match that they're trying new formats. I mean, we're doing rumbles in the middle of the fight cards now, right?
Yeah.
That's new. And this was supposed to be a tag team battle. Do you remember seeing that from the newer seasons of Robot Wars, perhaps?
Yeah.
Maybe some old ones too. Tag team battles. Very interesting. It's supposed to be like wrestling style where you got 2 robots. You can hobble over to your square, tag out for your teammate, and then they'll replace you when you have to sit in you're supposed to sit in your square.
Yeah. And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, okay, I know Bale Spear is in the bonus match, but I don't recall Basilisk or these other robots. And I'm watching the match. There are some horrendous filters on this match, and I'm starting to get skeptical. And then all of a sudden, a giant dinosaur foot shows up and squashes Basilisk.
This was where my dad told me to fast forward through the commercial.
And it's like, what the fuck?
I had a good laugh, though.
And I think the best part is, throughout all this insanity, Bale Spear looked like the only robot that actually made it in one piece. Oh, this was... I will say it was clever. I genuinely thought it was an actual match.
I could kind of see through it, but at the end I thought, hey, that's one way to promote your movie.
And honestly, I don't care that much for Jurassic World. I mean, I've seen the first 2 Jurassic Park movies, but I haven't seen the new Jurassic World movies or anything.
I saw Jurassic World. It was all right.
I mean, I'm sure Ryan Beaver, who's a big fan of monster movies, was just on the floor laughing. Like, oh, this is great.
I was definitely thinking about him on that one.
The best review. I haven't really heard much about Jurassic World, but the best review I've read so far comes from who else? Tim from Concussion, whose review is, and I quote, "Meh is my summary of the new Jurassic World movie."
Meh. That's another Timism for you right there. Yeah, but it was funny, and I'm sure there will be memes out of this. Next thing you know, you'll be watching a match in the Moto arena, and then all of a sudden a giant foot shows up and squashes Huge or somebody.
Complete with fart noise.
Yeah.
A la Monty Python.
Well, yeah, so that the winner of that match was the audience. And so we move on to the main event, Bronco versus Bombshell, and I'll say this was probably the best main event since the first episode, I think.
I'd say Tombstone versus Megabyte was the second best.
Yeah, I think so. It's frustrating because I know Mike Jeffrey said Bombshell was a bit of a rush build because the new season was announced only 4 weeks prior, and they had to completely rebuild Bombshell. I thought maybe he would have done something to keep the robot from getting stuck on its back again. Maybe put some
put a caster on.
or as we like to call it, the hoop of fail that I think Duck and Kyle Singer put on his bots a few times, because I thought that may have helped. But it's good to see they got some good hits on Bronco. Bronco had these weird looking legs sticking out of it, kind of looking like Mechadon upside down.
It looked like a bunch of ribs. And now I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. I want to go back to Bubba Gump Shrimp in San Francisco now. And, but Bronco, Bombshell was getting some hits in, but Bronco finally managed to get a good flip in.
Tossing it about like it was a pizza.
And then it performed its party trick, tossing it OOTA out of the arena.
And boom goes the dynamite.
And so somebody in the Facebook feed was saying, OOTAs are lame. Why do you have to do it? And it's like, oh, don't tell the Robot Wars fans that. But
considering that the BattleBots arena doesn't really allow for that many, it's cool when they happen.
Well, they got little sections in the corners there.
Yeah, but they're small. They're small.
King of Bots has little OOTA zones too.
Well, that's because their arena is a direct rip-off of the BattleBots one.
A little bit of Robot Wars here, a little bit of BattleBots there, but you know what? It's one of those rip-offs that I'm fine with.
Mm-hmm.
So, JMO, what'd you think of this main event?
Definitely pretty cool. Bombshell was our pit neighbor, so Mike was he's pretty happy about it. They're getting some really tough fights. Their fight card's pretty well stacked with some big names. So we're talking about his first match and maybe this one, and win or lose, we know that losing to a great opponent like Bronco, it won't really matter. It's gonna be good thing. It's good things for them no matter what. Of course, winning would be better, but even losing to Bronco is still really, really awesome. This match is, Mike was doing fantastic in the beginning. We were all pretty surprised that he was getting underneath them, flipping them over a few times, and given his performance against Lockjaw last season, we were all cheering for him, yeah, Mike, don't give up. And we love Alex and or Xander and Reason as well. So, but Mike being our pit neighbors, also good friends from the Southeast, we got to cheer for them too, Southern All Stars. So he was doing really well until that one flip, and then it did the thing in the corner, and we're like,
It almost looked like he'd come back because Bronco was able to get him back over, and then we're thinking, okay, so Bombshell can come back in, and then Bronco just tosses him straight up into the Lexan, and it's like, oh boy, and then Bronco just got the coup de grace in and got him out the arena. So.
Bronco does. First he's disorienting the driver. They're forward, it goes all over the place. They land in any position, which way. A lot of internal damage actually takes place. Do you think about how much stuff weighs inside the machine, and stuff moves around? You hit a spinner, like a vertical spinner or something, it damages the outside of your robot. Maybe you go flying, maybe you don't. But when all the little bits in your machine are accelerating rapidly, it actually does a ton of internal damage. So Bombshell on the outside looks pretty okay inside, and then they're probably going to get to this a little bit later, but it actually cracked the ends of their drive motors, and the stator flew out the back.
Yikes.
Ooh.
Because of the mass. The mass of the steel in their motor was heavy enough with the rapid deceleration hitting the floor. It actually broke the end and it flew out. So even though they got flipped back over onto their wheels, couldn't drive.
Yeah. It's rough because Bombshell, it's really frustrating to see it lose because it came runner-up last year, and it had a strong showing. It had all the different weaponry, and here it just hasn't gone their way for them.
It's a rush build, and it shows.
Well, yeah, but you know what? The time will come when Mike Jeffries, who is hands down one of the best builders I think we have in the country right now, he has a entire fleet of ant weights, feather weights, hobby weights, just about every weight category you can think of, and it's great. He always has something different to bring to the table, whether it's a vertical spinner, a horizontal spinner, some wacky chainsaw bot. It's definitely checking out some of his fights and seeing what kind of wacky design he can come up with, and yeah. So that pretty much covers all the matches. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 7.
7.5 for me. Yeah. Petunia going up in flames is what brings it up half a point for me.
Do you believe in decibels? Yes.
Oh my god, I marked out at that because I'm a big hockey nut, and Farouk bringing up the Miracle on Ice is kind of made me get a good chuckle. Although that Sub-Zero intro, man, this was not Farouk on his best. Let's put it that way. But
sometimes he has good days, and sometimes he just.
But even his bad days are still fun because he's at least he does his job, and he does his job well.
I'm amazed he's able to do so many intros for all these bots because it's 20 episodes, 6 matches per episode. That's like well over 100 200 intros he has to do, I think. Yeah, over 200 intros.
I don't know how he does it, but he does it.
Yeah, well, if Michael Buffer can come up with his own weird, crazy intros, and why not?
He did the opening for the Vegas Golden Knights in the finals.
Michael Buffer?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. JMO, your thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'd probably sit somewhere between a 7 and 8 as well. I'd be slightly biased since we're in it. Hey. But if I were to be objective about the rest of the robots, they're nice brawls, like some big hits. I like the matches that last longer than 1 or 2 hits. That's my personal preference.
There's definitely a big variety of different weapons in this episode. You got flippers, you got spinners, you've got axes, you've got crushers, you've got the saws. It's like every weapon you could completely think of is used in this episode.
And we've got a variety in the Rumble that's going to air on the Science Channel Wednesday.
Yep, we got Valkyrie who's also from Cambridge, Leanne Cushing.
Leanne Cushing.
You know who that is, JMO? Do you have any affiliation?
Leanne is she's the team captain. She's working with some other big names in the robot community. People know Fred Moore or Dane, maybe whichever name you want to pick.
I call him Fred.
Alex Kreese and Brooke Wills as well.
Alex Kreese, so it's
foiled the Mark Forge guy. So he helps us with a lot of the 3D prints. He helps the community with a lot of 3D prints in that sense. So those guys are also from Cambridge. They'll be doing their debut on the Science Channel, and definitely looking forward to that one.
Awesome, because I've always been a big fan of Foiled, and it's great to see like what's essentially a heavyweight version competing on BattleBots. We've also got Bale Spear, who's also another Jersey local, Earl Perncoast III.
I don't have high expectations for this, but I'm happy that they're there.
Yeah,
wasn't this completely like they didn't do this without any sponsors or big money or nothing? They did it all themselves.
And finally, we have the legendary Craig Danby with Predator.
Oh boy. Calling it now, Farouk's gonna make a Get to the Choppa reference.
Yes, unless they actually air it. But that's we're gonna save the bonus rumble for next week's episode, as you do.
And I guess we should we should leave. I guess we should leave off with our little chant that we've got for Craig, shall we?
Yes.
On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Good
Good
luck,
luck, Craig. Hopefully he actually wins a fight this time.
Well, he might have a good chance. I mean, his robots are designed to be spinner-proof. I mean, Foxic held up to Last Rites. Maybe he can hold up to Valkyrie.
Well, we'll see.
Well, until, JMO, it's great to have you on here.
One more question, JMO.
Sure.
What was with the banana?
Oh, yeah. Banana
Oh,
for
yes.
scale.
Oh, yes. I was really sad when they didn't do the post-fight interview because I had a fun answer for that. I think I told them something to the effect of, the UK guys told me that their driver is a fear of bananas, but which is completely not true.
Oh,
But-
you don't. Do you
And maybe
not
that's
know?
why they did it. But
Oh,
Is that where the banana for scale gimmick came from?
do you not?
this is a different banana. So Tim Rackers, you might know from
Rackley.
Monsoon, also from Concussion.
Yep.
They have he built, I don't forget the name of the robot, but it was like a monkey themed robot. It
Spank.
had these
It's
flailing
Spank the
arms.
monkey.
Yes, Spank. And it had a giant inflatable banana, and they went to some event. They were doing a fight against the folks from Reality,
Equinox.
at least Tim and Dennis, at least, with their 30-pounder, their featherweight named Equinox. And I mean, Spanx, I don't think was meant to be a particularly serious robot. Equinox, of course, is like the harbinger of death or something like that. Like they'll just rip you up. And then during the match, they take the banana off. It gets ripped off from the front of the robot, attached by, I don't know, who knows, tape. And the banana gets too close to the drum, gets sucked in through the back. The robot flips over and gets disabled over by where you're by the pit. So the banana is a sort of like it's an inside joke for them. It's a little bit of a reminder. It's just for fun, just to be like, hey, don't forget about the banana, like don't get triggered or anything like that before our match.
Oh,
And you actually can buy fake bananas at the FingerTech shop. They were actually selling them for $5 at RoboGames. What a rip!
Deal. Good deal on a measurement banana.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
That
that's
pretty
gonna
much
do
covers
it.
JMO, any plugs for like any companies, any sponsors?
Yeah, I mean, for us, definitely, we'd like to thank our sponsors. We have a lot of them, and we wouldn't be able to do BattleBots without them. Quickly rattling them off: Vex Robotics, MIT, Desktop Metal, Harmonic Drive, Max Amps Batteries, Hacker Brushless Motors, Cutter's Edge, Rescue Saws, and Cutting Edge Supply helped fabricate our plows.
And what's the next? Are there any events coming up this year that you're going to?
So unfortunately, I won't make it to Bot Blast this year. So give them hell, guys. But a little insider information: we are planning the next mass destruction. So
Yay.
definitely keep your eyes open for that. And I think it's actually be closer to you, Brandon, than it usually is in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
So,
is it? I think it's going to be in Queens again. I think.
New York Maker Faire is a definite date. We're debating if we want to do something sooner, but I think there's enough events in between that we might not. It might not stagger too well with the current events that are being planned.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah. So that pretty much covers today's episode. Next. Episode 7 is next week. We're going to talk about the bonus rumble as well, and hopefully have Craig Danby on. And it was good having you on, JMO.
thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. Until next time, I'm the Hardcore Kid.
I'm Otaku Nate.
And I'm a random guy.
Peace out and cease.
This isn't the end, bears.